there are a lot of talks about wrestling Mount Rushmores. This is mine. Bring it on, haters. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Danny Man Talks Wrestling with me, your host, Danny Man. As always, make sure to hit that button to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. I'm trying to post every day, so why don't you come and be a part of it? Now let's talk wrestling. All right, so before I get started, I know there are going to be a lot of opinions about my Mount Rushmore. 4 wrestlers, 4 guys in this instance, 4 wrestlers who mean the most to wrestling for me. This is not your Mount Rushmore. This is not the Mount Rushmore for all of wrestling. This is my Mount Rushmore for wrestlers that mean the most to me, Danny Man. Not you, Steve, or John, or whoever else is watching. This is only about me. So I think the most important person in my Mount Rushmore is none other than the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, I'm an Attitude Era kid. It is when I fell in love with wrestling. I had been watching wrestling before that. But this Attitude Era just hit different. It was one of those times where everyone at school was talking about it. I was in grade school. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone, if you didn't watch it the night before, you were kind of screwed the next day. Everyone was doing all the moves during recess. And the move that everyone was doing was the Stone Cold Stunner. Boom. That's just it. It just was. It just is what it is. Also, as far as I'm concerned, without Stone Cold Steve Austin, the entire wrestling industry would not be what it is today. His storyline with Vince McMahon as, you know, the disgruntled employee who always had it out for his boss, who, you know, beat up his boss whenever he had the chance, who screwed him over whenever he had the chance. He was the epitome of the anti-hero, right? He wasn't a good guy. If you look at him, he wasn't a good guy. But you couldn't help but root him on. Right? And that's why for me, when you think of Mount Rushmore, when you think of the 4 most important people in wrestling, for me, Stone Cold Steve Austin has to be up there. Now, it's true that his career wasn't the longest. It's true that he took the ball and went home. But that makes him that much better. He did so much for the WWE and wrestling in general in so little time. This was the time when we had 2 huge wrestling companies. The WCW was on top for a lot of it. But this man single-handedly made you tune in every day just to see what he was going to do next. Whether it was bring out a beer truck and spray everyone on stage, whether it was stopping a sacrifice by The Undertaker, or hitting his boss, Vince McMahon, with a bedpan. Also, in hindsight, all of those times that he beat up Vince McMahon, the man was in the right. I mean, we knew the man was in the right back then, but like even more so in hindsight, right? Like if you look back at it, yeah, you're like, it's kind of weird seeing Vince McMahon in this, but it's kind of nice seeing him get beat up by Stone Cold. And that is why the number 1 on my Mount Rushmore is the Texas Rattlesnake himself, stunning Stone Cold Steve Austin. The next person on my list is the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. That's right, Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, the first match I can remember ever watching, the first wrestling match I can remember ever watching that made me fall in love with this was the Iron Man match between Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart. Yes, Bret lost, I know. But seeing these 2 guys go at it, and Shawn just being this flashy dude that just thought he was everything, thought he was it, right? I was rooting for Bret Hart, man. I had the glasses. I pretended like I was Bret Hart, and I had my long hair back then. But, you know, I came out with the glasses. I put on, you know, my dad's jacket, came out, did my thing, you know, the excellence of execution. This man made me fall in love with wrestling. If it wasn't for Bret Hart, I would not have been a wrestling fan. Now, Sure. What happened later in his career, once he went to WCW and all of that, is a shame, right? Like, his career also got cut short because of concussions, because of Goldberg. And even since then, right? Like, some of the things he, like, says and criticizes people for, I mean, the guy got hit in the head a few times. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're having a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, Bret the Hitman Hart has to be up there. Now, I think those two, I'm going to have a lot of people agree with me, right? It's hard to argue against Stone Cold and Bret Hart. Great. I think up to now, I'm good. No one hates my picks yet. But there's still two more. One of my favorites has to be he lies, he cheats, he steals, Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. Man, now, I will admit that I did not watch a lot of the Ruthless Aggression era, right? That was kind of when I was a teenager and interested in, going to parties in high school and hanging out with friends and doing other things that wasn't wrestling, right? So I did miss a lot of his most memorable runs as far as some people are concerned, right? Like, I did not watch live when he beat Brock Lesnar. I saw it in hindsight. I saw it after the fact on DVD, right? At my cousin's house. And I was like, man, that's awesome. Great, right? But even before that, I remember him in WCW with the LWO, creating the LWO, being a heel, by the way, being this character that was like, we as Latinos don't get what we deserve. We're often overlooked just because we're Latinos. Sign of the times also might be a sign of now, but he was a heel for this. This man was one of the best characters on TV. Even, like I said, I wasn't watching him during the Ruthless Aggression era, but even looking back at it, man, this man was a luchador, a wrestler that just doesn't compare to others, man. He was unique. He was special. The things he would be doing now if he were still alive, I would have loved to see him now against Dominic, right? Against his son. It's his son, Dominic. I would love to see the things he could do now. It's a shame that he's no longer here. But he will forever live in my Mount Rushmore. Eddie Guerrero. Also, that stuff he did with China for the Intercontinental Championship, right? Like, the reason Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio worked as a storyline was because of this. Eddie Guerrero in China was the baseline for all of this, right? And it worked then, it works now, man. And oh man, I miss Eddie. Eddie. Finally, the fourth and final person on my Mount Rushmore is the person who brought me back to wrestling. Like I said, I was watching wrestling, before the Attitude Era, during the Attitude Era, fell off during the Ruthless Aggression Era, didn't see a whole lot of PG era. And then all of a sudden I heard of this guy who he played this Mr. Rogers character, but had a dark side that was starting to come out. There was puppets at his playhouse, and it was no other than Bray Wyatt. Seeing Bray Wyatt in his Firefly Funhouse, that's hard to say, by the way, was what brought me back into wrestling, right? This character that could flip like a light switch from being this, all-loving, super positive guy to this fiend character that would hurt people. That was his motivation, was just hurting people. It intrigued me. I had seen him as the Wyatt family, the Wyatt family, as the head of the Wyatt family. I had seen videos here and there of him. I wasn't watching wrestling at the time. But then when I saw this character just flipping through the channels on TV one day, it intrigued me and it made me not flip away. Um, I then went back and I saw some of the older videos on YouTube, and it's what sucked me back in, man. I wanted to see where this character was going next. I mean, this man was a genius with his character work, man. This man just knew what character he was playing. He knew where he wanted his characters to go, and he embodied it. He became his character. He wasn't playing a character on TV. He was those characters, right? And it showed. I saw him and I said, I need to see more of this guy. And it's why I started watching wrestling again. It's the Firefly Funhouse with Bray Wyatt. Sure, the run wasn't great, right? That match, that Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins, we all remember it, unfortunately. It wasn't great. The Fiend got set on fire. That wasn't great, right? The whole Alexa Bliss thing was fun. And then he comes back. Everyone just embraces him back again because he had an illness that took him away from the ring for a while. Then when he came back, he brought back this new character with Uncle Howdy, and man, was I intrigued, man. I was all in, waiting to see where that took us next. He had that feud with LA Knight. The match, again, man, Vince McMahon really knew how to ruin things. That pitch black match with LA Knight, something that I wish I didn't remember. But this man was a genius. He was a wrestling genius. That word is thrown around very often, but this man was a wrestling genius. His character work was amazing. He knew how to tell a story through his characters. Even when he was fighting Vince McMahon with booking, this man knew how to tell a story with his characters. And that is why he is the fourth in my wrestling Mount Rushmore. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. Just wanted to kind of show you guys the type of wrestling that I've been into, right? The kind of things that make me a wrestling fan. And what better way to do it than by giving you my Mount Rushmore. As always, let me know in the comments what you think. Tell me I'm wrong. I know you guys are going to have a problem with my 4. Where's Hulk Hogan? Hulk Hogan will never be on my Mount Rushmore. Where's John Cena? John Cena was almost on my Mount Rushmore. But then I remembered that Bray Wyatt was the person that brought me back into wrestling, and I had to include him. Anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for joining me. Drop a like if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments who your Mount Rushmore is. Right? Let's have a conversation. There isn't one right answer, but there is only 4 people to put on it, so it's hard to make that choice. As always, thank you guys so much for joining me. And until next time, peace.